Our film begins with two orphans searching for something in the principal's room, and we suddenly see them find a strange statue. The boy gets close to it and twists its nose, and suddenly a secret door opens leading underground. But before we find out what is down there, remind yourself not to forget to subscribe to the channel and give us a like. Before we find out what they discovered down there, let us go back in time a little to the beginning of the story. We find a mother named Mary who is standing in front of an orphanage, and it seems she has unusual abilities because she jumps over the gate easily. With her is a small child named Peter, and she is very sad because she is about to leave Peter at the orphanage. We see her putting a necklace around his neck and leaving a letter with him, and then she walks away and leaves him without saying a word. Now the years pass, and Peter grows up and reaches the age of 12, and during the Second World War, we see Peter still living in the same orphanage. And here we see he is not alone, and has a very close friend named Niece, and the two are always together, eating together and playing and spending all their time with each other. Peter still has the necklace his mother left him. We learn that the children hate this orphanage and suffer because of the principal, and we learn that the principal always treats them harshly and takes the good food for herself and leaves them the bad food. We also see that at breakfast, the children receive very small portions of food. We see Peter and Niece noticing something strange and feeling there is food being hidden and that the principal is hiding it for herself. From here, they decide to move and make a plan, which is to secretly enter her office and find the truth. One day, they get their chance and enter the office during a German raid on the city, and they start searching. Suddenly, they find a strange statue, and here we go back to the beginning of the film when Peter twists the statue's nose, and suddenly, a secret door opens leading underground. The two carefully go down tense and anxious, but the moment they arrive, they are shocked to find a huge amount of food stored there, and this proves the principal was really hiding food. Not only that, but there was also a lot of money, and in another room there were all the children's files. Now we see Peter picking up his file and opening it, and finding a letter from his mother Mary. We see him trying to read it, but the words keep moving in front of him and will not stay still. And he feels the letters jumbling up, so he gets lost and gives the letter to Niece. When Niece holds it and starts reading it aloud, we learn that the letter says his mother Mary is apologizing to him for leaving him, and that she was forced to do this and that she loves him very much, and she did this so his future would be better. She also tells him, "You are a special child unlike anyone else, and he will know this truth when he grows up." She promises him they will meet again one day, and if it is not in this world, they will meet in another. Suddenly the door opens and the principal enters and stands before them with fury, and tells Peter he is nothing special and just a worthless orphan, and tells him his mother left him because she did not want him and regrets having him. With extreme cruelty, she tears up the letter in front of him, but Peter attacks her and hides pieces of the letter in his pocket. We find the principal beating them both and deciding to punish them. At night, we find Peter and Niece still awake, talking about what happened and about the cruel principal. Suddenly, something very strange happens, and we find pirates descending from the ceiling on ropes and starting to kidnap the children while they sleep in a terrifying scene. We find Peter and Niece hiding under the bed, and they are scared of them and trying to escape. But suddenly, one of the pirates grabs Niece and pulls him up, and Peter tries to catch up with him and runs toward the door and opens it quickly. But the shock is that he finds the principal standing in front of him, and she pushes him inside and throws him to them. At that moment, we learn the truth that she has a deal with the pirates to sell the children in exchange for money so they can work as slaves or be raised by them or help them steal ships. And she takes a lot of money from them. This explains why Peter and Niece found so much money down in the basement. After a while, Peter and Niece find themselves kidnapped on a ship. We see them trying to escape and get outside, but they discover something shocking. The ship is not at sea. This ship is flying in the air. At that moment, they decide to jump from it onto the next orphanage. We then find them gathering their courage and jumping onto the roof of the orphanage, and they survive. But we find that suddenly, the German planes attacking the city come into conflict with them and are very surprised to see a ship flying in the air, and we find the planes firing at the ship. But it flies fast and rises to a very high altitude. We see Peter in this state freezing in place, shocked by what he is seeing and what is happening around him, and the ship continues rising until it enters a completely different world. Peter could not comprehend what was happening. After a while, the ship stops in a place full of workers who were working in mines and singing, and here we learn that the name of the place is Neverland. They then enter the many islands and find hundreds of thousands of children and teenagers who are all working digging in the mountain mines. The children, the moment they see the ship, cheer and welcome them and sing the pirates' anthem. Now Peter and the rest of the children are taken to a very dangerous man whose name is Blackbeard. We learn that Blackbeard is the leader of the pirates, and we see him standing before them and starting to speak and telling them that this place is for orphans who have no one and that their lives here will be better but with conditions. He tells them the first condition is they work well and stay safe, and then they will receive rewards. The second condition is that if any of them thinks about being lazy or trying to escape, they will see a very different and terrifying side of him, and will be punished, and he might even eliminate them. He emphasizes to them that there is no mercy and no second chance, and everyone will be subject to the same rules. Here we see the children moving like machines inside the mine, and each person was holding their tools and digging without stopping, and there was no hope of escape. Now we start to understand that this place is not the paradise the pirate described, but a huge prison. After a while, Peter meets an older worker named Sam and tries to understand what is really happening. We see Peter asking him why everyone is digging like this. And Sam looks around nervously and says they are looking for something very valuable, and tells him the thing is called magic fairy dust. And it is very rare. Sam then tells him that fairies existed long ago, but Blackbeard exterminated them all in order to take their magic for himself. We see Peter asking more about this dust, but Sam suddenly gets tense, and his voice changes, and he was terrified for anyone to hear him. We learn that Blackbeard is actually very old and has been alive for hundreds of years, but what keeps him alive is this dust, because when he smells it, he regains his youth again and it grants eternal life. So basically, Blackbeard has eternal youth. We see Sam running away scared. Afterward, we see night come, and Peter's hands are all wounds and exhaustion from all the digging, and this shows how harsh life there really is. Suddenly, a young man named Hook appears and tries to help Peter and tells him his axe is not sharpened, and that is why his hand got hurt. So he sharpens his axe for him, and Peter thanks him. This is their first interaction. We find Peter trying to start a conversation and befriend him, but Hook clearly refuses and tells him this is the first and last time he will help him. It was obvious he had been through difficult things that made him trust people very little. The next day, we go back to see Peter digging again, and in the midst of exhaustion and effort, he finally finds a piece of fairy dust. And this is a moment of great hope for him because he finally feels he has done something important. But suddenly, another worker snatches the piece from his hand, and Peter tries to defend himself and explain he was the one who found it, but nobody believes him, and the truth has no value here. This shows us how much injustice dominates the place. We then see them forcibly taking Peter afterward to punish him for the disturbance he caused. We learn at that moment that Blackbeard is in his palace and busy with his men, and telling them he wants to get rid of all the native inhabitants of the island, who, as we learn, always attack his ships and want to get rid of him and his injustice. Suddenly, one of the pirates comes and reports they have caught a child stealing, and also tells him about Peter causing trouble. We find Blackbeard saying he will make an example of them today. We go back to poor Peter and find him gathered with the other children who were accused of breaking the rules, and Blackbeard himself appears to decide the punishment. The moment is filled with tension because we know any decision here could be the end today. We see that the punishment simply is that the children will walk on a thin plank and jump from the ship, and this is like an execution for them, but in a terrifying way. We learn the decision is by vote, and when it comes to Peter's turn, we see all the people voting against him without any mercy, and everyone with injustice deciding to execute him, even though they know he is innocent. We find Blackbeard immediately throwing him from the ship. And here we reach the big shocking moment as Peter suddenly starts flying in the air before he falls. And this shocks everyone, and no one understands how this happened. Here, everything changes because we understand that Peter is not an ordinary child at all. But unfortunately, the flying does not last, and he falls in the end, but not from a very great height, and he manages to survive miraculously. When he comes to, he finds himself in Blackbeard's office, and here we start to see that Blackbeard's view of him has completely changed, and he starts treating him with a little more gentleness and gives him some chocolate. He then sees the necklace he is wearing, and it becomes obvious he knows him well. He tells him that the native inhabitants of Neverland have an old prophecy, and this prophecy says that a small child was born from a love story between a prince of the fairy kingdom and a human girl from the native inhabitants of the island, and that the end of Blackbeard will be at the hands of this child. He seems fairly sure that Peter is the child spoken of in the old prophecy, but Peter tells him those are just fairy tales for children, and he has never heard of Blackbeard before. This makes Blackbeard see him as a real threat, so he decides to lock him up immediately. Now we see Peter alone in prison, and he starts remembering his mother's words and her promise that she would meet him again, whether in this world or in another. Here he starts connecting the dots and understands she might have meant this world from the beginning, and this gives him a very strong motivation to escape in order to look for her. Suddenly, we hear Hook's voice, and we find him digging in the corner of Peter's cell and talking to him and saying he can help him escape. But on one condition, which is that Peter flies Hook far away from the ship because he found out he can fly, meaning they both escape together. Here Peter agrees to fly Hook, but on one condition, which is that Hook helps him find his mother. Hook agrees and blows the wall and takes Peter, and they both escape and hide in large barrels floating in the water. We find Hook reaching Sam and asking him to take him and Peter to the surface in order to escape. We see Sam actually hiding them and taking them to the elevator that goes up to the surface. Here Sam asks to escape with them because he is tired of the life of slavery. We see Peter and Hook taking him with them, and the three of them reach the surface, and we find them meeting Blackbeard's guards and beating them and overcoming them. We see them quickly boarding the cable car and moving upward in the direction of the ships. But Blackbeard's guards return and pull the cable and try to stop them again. But we see Peter climbing up and cutting the cable, and the cable car falls with them onto one of Blackbeard's ships, and immediately Hook takes command of the ship and flies it to escape outside Neverland's wall. We find Blackbeard seeing them from his window and ordering his men to fire at them and immediately sends the pirates after them. Now we see a magnificent chase in the sky with him driving the ship in very crazy maneuvers because he does not actually know how to drive the ship at all, to the point where we see the ship flipping in the air to dodge the attack. They finally escape from the pirates and exit outside Neverland's wall and go to the area where the native inhabitants of the island live. Now we find Hook telling Peter he wants to escape from the island and return to his old life. But Peter immediately stops him and reminds him of the agreement between them and that he must find his mother first. Suddenly, without warning, the ship breaks down in the air and starts falling rapidly after the sails are cut until it crashes heavily in the middle of the forest. At the same time, Blackbeard receives news of Peter's and Hook's and Sam's escape and that they are now in the native inhabitants' land. He gets very angry and starts roaring and orders the pirates to bring back Peter by any means, no matter the cost, because he is sure Peter is the real threat to him. The others do not matter to him as much. We go back to the forest and find Hook very tense because of the ship crashing, because he saw it as the only hope of escape. But on the contrary, Peter is very excited because he is finally free and able to look for his mother. This shows the difference between them, where one wants to escape and the other wants to confront. Peter finds a map in the wreckage and keeps searching it until he identifies the location of the native inhabitants and decides that is his next destination, because he was convinced they could help him if they are convinced he is the boy of the prophecy. Hook tries to convince him not to go alone because they might be dangerous. But Peter refuses and keeps going. Sam intervenes and convinces Hook that their presence with Peter might bring them a big reward, and this makes Hook agree, and the three of them continue on their way. At night, after a while, they sit and make a small fire in the middle of the forest to rest. But this moment of calm suddenly turns when huge birds attack them, and they get into a difficult fight as they try to escape. But the birds are very fast and powerful. It appears their end is near, and one of the birds grabs Sam and flies him away. At the last moment, a girl named Lily appears and saves them from death and rescues Sam. We discover that Lily is the princess of the tribe they were heading to, and this makes the situation more complicated because they are now in the hands of unknown people. Hook tries to talk to her, but she hits him and he loses consciousness, and she takes the three of them back to the tribe. When he wakes up, he finds himself flipped upside down and bound by his feet, and looks and finds Peter and Sam also bound like him. The tribe members all chant a name, Ban, and Lily tells them that Ban is the strongest fighter in the tribe and explains their law, which is that any strange man who enters their land must face Ban. And if Ban wins, they will be eliminated, but if the stranger wins, they will be allowed to live. This puts them before a test of life or death. Hook tries to convince them that Peter is the boy of the prophecy, but nobody believes him. So he makes a decision that he will fight Ban instead of Peter because he sees that Peter is a child and Sam cannot fight. So he takes on the responsibility and enters the confrontation. But the tribe's warrior turns out very strong and his skills are frightening. And the fight is very hard for Hook. And it seems the outcome is not certain at all. Hook starts to falter against Ban's power, and at that moment Peter gathers his courage and goes in to help him. But the warrior throws Peter into the air with force, and at that moment the necklace falls from his neck to the ground. The tribe chief sees the necklace and his expression changes, and he announces before everyone that Peter is indeed the boy of the prophecy. All the tribe members kneel before him out of respect, and Peter is shocked and cannot comprehend what is happening. Afterward, Lily takes them to the memory tree and begins telling them an old story about the tribe's history. She explains that long ago, Blackbeard was in control of Neverland, and no one could stand against him. At that time, the tribe chief united with the fairy king, and they started a war against him. During the war, the fairy prince met Mary, Peter's mother, and they fell in love. But the surprise is that Mary was originally Blackbeard's beloved, but she never loved him. When Blackbeard found out the truth, he decided to kill her immediately, and the fairy prince sacrificed himself and tried to save Mary. But because he became human, he died after just one day because he lost the benefits of fairy dust and eternal youth. So he sacrificed himself to save Mary and Peter. At that moment, we understand that Peter is not an ordinary child, and he is indeed the son of the fairy prince. Peter asks Lily about his mother, and she tells him she hid him among humans so he would be safe and that she is still alive in the fairy kingdom. This makes him hold on to hope even more, and he asks them to help him reach her But the tribe chief tells him they must first make sure he is truly Mary's son, and for this he must prove himself within 3 days. The challenge is that he must prove he can fly. We see him throughout the night trying again and again, but failing, and the matter turns out harder than he imagined. At the same time, Sam is alone in the forest, and suddenly, Blackbeard and his pirates appear before him and threaten that if he does not tell them Peter's location, they will kill him immediately. Sam gets very scared and cannot handle the pressure and decides to tell them everything in detail. The next day, Blackbeard attacks the tribe with a complete army of pirates, and the attack is very violent. The tribe members try to defend with all their strength, but the pirates are much stronger. And in the chaos, one of the pirates finds Peter and is about to kill him. But at the last moment, Hook appears and saves him and takes him and runs far away. Lily decides to go with them to make sure they are safe, but the pirates succeed in capturing Hook and Lily while Peter manages to hide. Now Hook and Lily are captured, and Blackbeard starts interrogating them and demanding to know Peter's location. The tribe chief refuses to speak, and Lily keeps refusing. But Hook, in a moment of weakness to save her, tells Blackbeard that Peter is going to the fairy kingdom to look for his mother. This is a very difficult decision for him because he is sacrificing Peter's secret to save her life. Suddenly, at that same moment, Peter appears riding a huge bird and attacks the pirates by surprise and turns the whole place upside down, and everyone starts running in every direction from the chaos. But Blackbeard fires at him and knocks him to the ground. He then tells him his mother Mary died long ago, and he was the one who killed her himself. This breaks Peter from the inside. But before everything ends, Hook appears again and saves Peter, and they escape, the four of them along with Lily, with difficulty in the middle of the chaos. After they pull away, Peter confronts Lily and says she lied to him about his mother. She responds that if she had told him the truth, he would have returned to the human world, and then there would have been no one able to stop Blackbeard except him. This puts Peter in a state of great shock and grief. But instead of falling apart, the three of them decide to go to a place called the Sea of Freedoms, which is a place Blackbeard cannot reach, and this is their last hope. They actually board a small boat and begin their journey through a lake. During their journey, they notice something moving under the water, and the atmosphere is calm, but full of tension. Suddenly, crocodiles attack them by surprise, and the boat crashes hard to the point that Peter falls into the water. But the Sea of Freedom's guards quickly descend and rescue Peter before he drowns and get the three of them out of that area safely. After escaping the danger, they walk a bit until they find a wrecked ship on the shore. Here, Hook sees a new opportunity to escape and says they can fix it and leave this entire world because he is tired and does not want to continue the journey. But Peter and Lily completely refuse the idea because their goal has now become confronting Blackbeard and ending his rule. The next day, Hook makes his decision and walks away alone and leaves them. And Peter decides he must take revenge for his mother and asks Lily to take him to the fairy kingdom in order to form an alliance with its power. They actually begin their journey together until they get close to the kingdom. But suddenly, they find a huge wall in front of them with a message that the door only opens with the prince's key. Peter gets tense because he does not have any key. Suddenly, Blackbeard appears with his pirates because he had been following them. Without hesitation, he snatches the necklace from Peter's neck, and it turns out the necklace is the real key. He uses it to open the gateway to the fairy kingdom, and indeed the gate opens before him. He is very happy because he will finally gain eternal youth. The fairies are around the place but weak without their leader. Blackbeard enters with his ship and orders the pirates to kill any fairy that comes close, and this makes Peter very angry, and he feels he must stop him. Blackbeard asks him to kneel before him, but Peter stubbornly refuses with eyes full of resentment and tells him he is a warrior and the son of the fairy prince, and it is impossible he kneels to a worthless pirate like him. At the moment Blackbeard is about to kill him, Hook suddenly returns and crashes his ship into Blackbeard's ship, and here a massive battle starts full of chaos and fire and fighting everywhere. After violent fighting, Hook's ship is destroyed and he falls from it, and Peter, because of being in the fairy kingdom, regains his ability to fly. Without thinking, he dives after Hook and rescues him. This moment proves he has started to control his power. After rescuing Hook, he returns to fly to continue the confrontation. But this time he is not alone because all the fairies stand with him and the battle turns into a real war between two powers. Peter and the fairies gradually gain control over the pirates. In one last desperate attempt, Blackbeard grabs Lily and threatens them with her and tells Peter if he comes close, he will kill her. But the fairies quickly intervene and save her, and Peter also catches her in the air. At that same moment, Blackbeard's ship falls from the sky with him inside, and this is his final silence, in the end of his rule. After the battle ends, the fairies use their magic, and an image of Mary appears before Peter and tells him, "Your mother is very proud of you." Peter admits he felt lonely without her, but she reassures him and tells him he has finally found his real family in his place. Then she quietly disappears. In the end, Peter returns to his old world in order to go to the orphanage and take his friend niece and the other children and bring them to the magical world. There they all live in peace, far from the cruelty of the principal and the cruelty of Blackbeard. And with that, our film for tonight comes to its end. One final word for you, dear sweet viewer. We really put in the effort to bring you these videos, so please do not hold back your lovely like and subscribe so you can follow everything new.